It was a journey which happened every day, pretty much, I would say.
I love to hear what are their special memories about their school
I
day.
remember I jumped off the stage.
So what was it that kept you going?
We published a paper together. It got really good media attention. Then I became the fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society. Small steps, there were these
Baby
things
steps
that
getting there.
Yeah.
What was that goal at the end of that tunnel saying that's where I want to be?
I figured actually this is something I am very much interested in, and I would love to pursue and answer these questions myself, because why not? Because if everyone has those questions, someone needs to answer them.
Absolutely. Naman, I've got so many good little bits which I'm going to cut. You've got no idea.
When I get older, I will be prouder to say it louder that I'm a Francian.
Hello and welcome. President Dr. APJ Kalam rightly said, dreams transform into thoughts and thoughts result in action. Dreams are the blueprints for success because it allows us to visualize what success will look like for us. This mental picture becomes our guiding light. And when we see that destination clearly, dreams help us get that motivation, making our journey more purposeful. Dreams inspire plans. We start thinking about how to turn that dream into reality. Turning his dream into reality is a very special guest with us today here. A very big welcome to our alumnus, smart, young, dynamic, scientific Naman Bajaj.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I think I resonate so much with that thought of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, because I think we'll talk about it in detail, I guess, but there was always this picture of me doing astronomy research. And
Really?
I think it really resonates with me a
Wow.
lot.
Because, I think all parents ask their kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I'm going to come and ask you that question. At what stage did you realize that's where I want to be up with the stars? So I'm going to start by telling my audience a little bit more about you. Naman is doing exemplary work in the world of space and technology. He completed his education from St. Francis High School, Bhayandar in 2015. He went on to pursue a Bachelor of Technology in Mechanical Engineering, and his keen interest in the field of astronomy has yielded great results in recent years. Naman is a fellow member of the Royal Astronomical Society UK, and his discovery on the formation of new stars and planets is being lauded, recognized, and covered by many universities. University of Arizona and SETI in the United States of America, and Cambridge University in UK, to name just a few. He is currently pursuing his PhD in the University of Arizona and is also working on projects funded by NASA. What an impressive resume. And you're still studying. You're still on the way to getting where you want to be. So I'm going to start off the interview with the first question. A small boy from the suburbs, outskirts of Mumbai, one of the biggest suburbs of Thane, Bhayandar, to NASA. So tell us about that journey.
I think it involved a lot of steps. It was a journey which happened every day, pretty much, I would say. St. Francis was a part of it. I think I spent 10 years at St. Francis High School from my first standard to 10th standard. And I think those years were just amazing, because I was not interested in astronomy at that time, or at that moment when I was at St. Francis. Or I had not even thought about doing something like this at that point. But I think what it helped me do was, it created a personality within me, I think. And all the hobbies I have, I owe to, I think, St. Francis.
Wow.
Because I used to play guitar in the choir of the St. Francis High School. But we also called it as orchestra at some point, I think,
Right.
because we had 10 guitarists.
Oh, wow.
And we had our own songs and everything. So I did that. I played football, and I did so many, decorating the Christmas tree were some of those things. You do it with your friends, with your group, and all of those activities. So I think that is what I think the contribution of St. Francis has been in this journey. Not particularly related to astronomy, but I think very important for what I did eventually in the end after that. And I think that 11-12 standard period, which is, I think, in a way, the most crucial period when you're deciding what you actually want to do. Sometimes that is not when you decide. Sometimes it comes later on that you actually don't want to do that and do something
Right.
else. So I think that was one of the times where this thought of astronomy came to my mind, but I entered engineering, and then eventually I figured out that I want to do astronomy, and then I did astronomy. So I think this was the journey broadly.
So you've realized in 11th and 12th that, okay, astronomy is where I want to go. And you spoke about your school so lovingly. And I know I have interviewed so many alumni all over the place, all over India. We've even got them abroad. That I love to hear what are their special memories about their school days. So I like the way you said guitar. I like the way you said football, decorating the Christmas tree. I'm sure you have some very special memories. I want you to relive them for us.
I think for any school-going student, when you go down the memory lane, the first thing that comes, I think, is the people
Right.
that you have there. Be it your friends or your teachers. I remember so many teachers' names just off the top of my head right now, like Poonam Miss, Savitri Miss, all played great roles in my life. So first, I think, were the people and all the fun I had with my friends and the friends I made. And I don't know. There's so many things that would, I think, would be so embarrassing at this point,
It's
which
okay. It's
which
okay.
I would
You
have
can
done.
you will be embarrassed, but we'll have fun.
But so yeah, I think the first thing is definitely the people, and then uh, again things like decorating the Christmas tree with them, or there's so many competitions, and I used to do a lot of dance as well.
Uh-huh.
I still do a lot of dance as well. I've sung for my school, so I think one of the fondest memories I have from school would be the 10th standard camp,
Oh,
which was
yes.
at Aurangabad, and I had this song, uh, the waving flag song.
Uh-huh.
I changed it to being a Franciscan.
Okay.
So when I
Do you
get
remember
old,
it?
maybe a little bit. When I get older, I will be prouder to say it louder that I'm a Franciscan, a
Oh, nice.
Franciscan, a France. So we sung that song at the camp, and I was the lead singer, so I was at the front of the stage, and I think behind me were at least 300 boys
Wow.
just dancing behind me on that song. And I think that was a great moment because I always wanted to be that person on the stage, be with the guitar or something. And I remember I jumped off the stage in that energy and that rock moment. I just jumped off the stage, and after I jumped off, I realized that was a very high stage. And I did fumble a little bit, but eventually we won second place for that song, and I was so happy. So I think that has to be the fondest memory because it was in front of a crowd of I think 2,000 or 3,000
Wow.
people because there were so many schools
Yeah.
at the camp. So something like that, I think, at the biggest moment and at the smallest, the smallest of the things, playing guitar with my fellow instrumentalists. We used to not just sing choir songs or prayer songs. We also used to jam on some other songs whenever
Yeah.
we got time, because well, we're kids.
That's what we do.
If that keeps me away from classes, I might take some time off.
I know. I hear you.
I remember because I think I had in 10th standard my percentage was something like 92% or something,
Uh-huh.
and one of the teachers told me that if you had spent a little more time in class and not in the auditorium, you might have been on that board. Your
Okay.
photo might have been on that board. I was like, I'm super happy to not be there. It's okay. I mean, because I had such a great time, and
Others, how else would we have got this all-rounded Naman?
and those are the things I'm talking about today, right? So I
Absolutely.
think that is really important, and those are probably some of the memories I can go through.
All right. So my next question now is going to be: you finished your high school, you've done your 10th, you were brilliant in that, you fell off the stage, nearly fell off the stage.
Jumped
So
off the stage.
you started, yeah, jumped off. You should not say jumped off, because that's deliberate. I want to jump off. Whereas fell off is okay, maybe I tripped and fell off, but we'll let that go. So now your interest in astronomy started when you were in the 11th and the 12th. How did you know what you want to do, which stream you want to go into, or was it just a dream that I like Houston, we have a problem? You just wanted to get to NASA. What was that dream? What was that goal at the end of that tunnel saying that's where I want to be?
Yeah, I think what happened during that 11, 12 standard period, I was preparing for JEE exams, so for IIT and all of that, engineering entrance exams, and like every other kid, it's a very stressful time in your life. That
Absolutely.
those 2 years is a different phase altogether. I've never lived that phase ever again in my life, and I don't think I want to be honest. But one thing that happened in that phase was I started talking to myself a little more because you can't talk to a lot of people at that point because everyone's going to ask you about your scores in tests and whatever at classes and everything. And what I started to do was watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of YouTube documentaries. So there are
Okay.
these superb channels. One is PBS Space Time, and people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, Michio Kaku, famous astrophysicists who do a lot of outreach, who talk to a lot of people so that they are able to spread astronomy to people. So I used to watch a lot of those documentaries, 45 minutes, 1 hour. This was my
Okay.
12th standard particularly, I think. And that's when it just came to me that I always had these questions. I just never tried to address them or tried to answer them in any way. You're always given some or the other answer. One could be in the form of religion, for example, which never settled well with me. I always had more questions which were not answered. And then I found this and the questions they are trying to answer. And I figured actually this is something I am very much interested in, and I would love to pursue and answer these questions myself. Because why not? Because if everyone has those questions, someone needs to answer them. I think that was the thought at that point. That yeah, this is something I find very fascinating. I am always awestruck while watching these videos. I should be the one on the other side now.
Right.
I think that was the idea at that point.
Which is so true, because I think a lot of people want to become an actor because they see actors and they say they want to emulate that. That's what I want to do. So something like astronomy caused you to get there. So then how did you know that these are the particular steps I need to take to be there? That's what I want you to tell me about.
I think there's this one particular person I would like to thank. Actually, two of them, I think. One is Puneet sir, and the other is Arish Inam Khan sir. Both were my physics professors during my 11th, 12th standard. I loved them so much because they're just wonderful teachers, and I love wonderful teachers. I was, at that time in 12th standard, I was actually mature enough to understand that what I'm watching on YouTube, what I'm watching on these documentaries is probably not exactly what the scientists are doing in the background. This is the outreach part. This will be gloomed, like this will be very gloomy. This will be, made like a story and everything, but maybe the astronomers or the cosmologists behind it are not exactly doing this on a daily basis. Their life maybe is not that exciting on a daily basis. So would I like to do that? I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I really want to do it even. But I have this interest. So I talked to those two particular professors, and they said a very simple thing, considering the reality, the situation that we have here. They said if you go for a bachelor's in science, do a physics degree, that is the ideal way to get into astronomy. You study physics and you go into astronomy. But what if you lose your interest during that journey? Because once you have a bachelor's in science, that is physics, what will you do next?
What else?
Because probably the only gate, well, now you have some data science and other things, but at that time at least, the only gate you would see is you do a master's and you do a PhD, but if you're not interested in that, I don't know what to do with that degree, right? So they said you have good marks, you can enter a good engineering college, and you can still be interested in astronomy. And if you find yourself in a position where you feel like, okay, I just want to do astronomy, I don't want to do engineering, you can always switch after engineering, because we have 15 lakh engineers graduating every year.
Right.
Not everyone's doing engineering, right? We have the best actors from engineering, be it on YouTube if you see TVF, AIB, and all of those. Those are all, many of them are from IITs even. So you can always switch, but if you're not interested in astronomy anymore, if you try it out, you don't find it interesting, you still are interested in engineering, and you can, get a job and do stuff later on.
Basically, they give you an escape door or a backup plan.
Yeah, and I think, I know there are some people who say that you should never have a backup plan because that means that you're not focused enough
Ready for
on
failure.
your...
No. Always have a backup plan. I would say
Yeah.
have contingency plan B and C.
Exactly, I had those even later in my life when I was pursuing, when I was trying to do astronomy actually, because it didn't come very easily. So I think that was a very crucial decision that we took at that point. And of course, my parents and everyone was involved in that decision. And I was very happy. And till date, I'm very happy with that decision because I had a wonderful time during my engineering. And I think it was the third year of engineering when I decided I wanted to do astronomy.
Okay.
That was I was completely fixated on that. It was after attending two of the workshops or schools. One was on quantum mechanics or quantum science, and the other was astronomy. And I had to select between these two because I used to find both of these very interesting.
Okay.
And the way the workshops went, it was very clear I wanted to do astronomy. And then I think that was the 2.5 years into engineering, and I was sure that I wanted to do astronomy. And from there, then I've never really looked back from doing astronomy.
It's wonderful that you can say you never look back. But going forward, what were your hurdles? What were your problems that you faced?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems to do astronomy is doing astronomy. Because, if you count the number of astronomers in India, it's probably less than 100, or maybe in a few hundreds at max. And if you count the number of students who want to do astronomy, I think that's over a lakh at
Wow.
least, right? And when I was applying for it, so I'm in an engineering college. There's no one in my college who does astronomy or knows how to do astronomy even remotely, or knows even an astronomer who they can put me in touch with. Not even my physics department. I actually went to the physics department. I asked them, do you know any astronomer that I can work with? Like, we don't have any contact, sorry. So I found myself in a situation where I didn't know how to go forward now, because without getting that astronomy research experience, because I already don't have education in astronomy. So if I'm applying for programs later on, I don't have the education, I don't have the research experience, I'm not getting into astronomy. It's as simple as that. So I started applying for internships, a lot of astronomy internships in the summer, in the winter, and so on and so forth. Never got one, because, and it's very understandable, because you have so many physics students applying for these internships, and then you have a mechanical engineer applying for this internship. Who will you go to, right? It's very clear they'll go for a physics student. So I think that, I'm guessing that was the reason that I never got selected for any of those internships. But one thing that happened during that time, which was horrible for the world, but worked out quite nicely for me, was COVID-19. Because this is 2019 that I'm talking, 2019, 2020 that I'm talking about, when I decided to do astronomy. And I think one thing COVID did was it connected the world together. However, we lost a lot of people, which was really bad. But for me, I tried to look at, because this was my forming years, I tried to look at it in a way that I could change my career from there, or my life from there. And my idea was that now if I reach out to professors in the US, for example, for them, their neighbor and me, we are at the same distance now.
Absolutely.
We are not, he has no reason to say no to me just because I'm in India and he's in the US.
Absolutely.
So I started emailing, cold emailing people. I think I sent more than 200 emails. I used to, before sleeping every night, I would send 15 emails with a timer, so that it would, the emails would go when it's morning for them, and so on and so forth. I did that for, I think, 2 months straight, every night. And eventually, I heard back from this, really great guy, Dr. Goran Sandel. He's at University of Hawaii. He's, I think, 74 years old, 50 years of experience in astronomy.
Wow.
And he was like, I have a lot of projects, but what is something that you can work on from being in India? And well, me being me, I just kept emailing him like, okay, I will do anything, I will do this, I'll do that, because this is one positive response I've received. I cannot lose it. And eventually, he gave me a project to work on. We worked on it together. We eventually published it in the Astrophysical Journal. It was an amazing, amazing experience that I had with him. And then I worked on more projects with him. He wrote recommendation letters for me. And then eventually things, kind of worked out. But I think there was this 1 year period where I was trying to look for something, trying to reach out to people, but there was nothing coming to me. But I just had to do it every night, and keep going in the hope that one day it will work, and it did work eventually.
So what, apart from that hope, what was the motivation, or what kept you perseverant in that effort? Because if you're sending around 200 emails a day and you're not hearing back, a week, 2 weeks, a month, there is a stage where you'd feel hopeless, you'd feel frustrated that I'm not getting anywhere. So do you ever feel, let me give up? Let me just forget all of it. Let me go to some kind of a, stream which I will definitely go and get a job, because at the end of the day, middle class mentality is, are you employable? Are you going to get a fixed income? So what was it that kept you going?
I think, of course, there were many of those nights, because again, I did my mechanical engineering from a really good college, which means I had a lot of friends who were getting jobs, right? And a lot of friends who were getting placed in really good companies. So you would always, there will always be a time you will second guess yourself and think that, is this worth it? And will you eventually get something out of this? But I think the biggest support was from my family, for example, because they never really forced me to, that you have to get a job right after your engineering. I took a break after engineering, actually. I took 1 year off. I was working on astronomy projects while I was applying for PhDs in the US, because I wanted a fully funded PhD, because I didn't want to spend a single dollar in the US. So I think that support from the family that, you don't really, it's okay, you can take your time, take 2 years, aim for what you want, just try what you want. And I think there was some, I think the first part was the support, and the second was there's some short-term laurels that were coming to me
Okay.
at the same time, because I was working on this research project with this person called Geo Douglas, also from the US. Um, we published a paper together. It got really good media attention, and after that, so that news spread across my college. The director of my college sent an email to everyone that, so that was a very good moment. Like, after
Yeah.
those 3 4 months or 6 months, you get that one email, and then everyone knows you and everyone sort of
Right.
acknowledges you, and that keeps you going for 3 more months.
Right.
And then I became the fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society. So that was another big laurel in my bag. And then that moved me for 3 4 more months. Then I became a member of the European Astronomical Society. So there were, I think, these
Small steps.
small steps. There were these
Baby
things
steps
that,
getting there.
yeah, they just kept me. They just always. Whenever I was at my lowest, I think there was something positive that happened, and then that gave me a new energy to go down again eventually until
I like that because life is a seesaw.
Yeah.
It will take you up and it will take you down. So I like the way you said it gave me energy to go down because very few people say that.
because there is a threshold below which it is impossible to survive.
Yes.
The threshold varies for each and every person,
Right.
depending on your family conditions, depending on your support system that you have, depending on a lot of things. But once you are below that threshold, it's very hard
Difficult to
to come up and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
So I think I was just lucky enough that I never reached that threshold, and there was something always to uplift me
Yeah.
before that.
I wouldn't use the word luck, Naman. You persevered and you kept doing something. You didn't just sit back and say, is something coming to me? It was your work that got recognized. It was your work that earned you the laurels. So I don't like it when people use the word lucky, especially for people say, I don't have luck. That becomes like, oh, I'm doing everything, but I'm not lucky. No, you have to do it to get that luck.
Oh, 100%.
So I think don't rob yourself of your laurels.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes things work out the way they do, and you just
Yeah.
don't understand how it happened. So,
Are you a movie buff? I hope you're not going to quote that line about the tare aligning and everything, especially since you're from astronomy.
I'm an astronomer, not an astrologer.
That was, I don't know in which movie it was something about all the entire
The
cosmos.
oh yeah,
all
the
of
Shah
them,
Rukh Khan movie, I think. Yeah,
aligning and
yeah.
giving you that moment.
No, I don't agree completely with that. But it's just sometimes when you don't understand how, okay, you're doing your stuff, and sometimes just, things fall into place. Of course, because you were trying for them to fall into place. But it's good to be humble at times.
No, it's always good to be humble. एक हिंदी में कहावत है, जितना पेड़ फल से लदता है, उतना झुकता है. So the bigger you are, the more you should be modest. And we are learning from our mentors. I think they're the most modest people on the world, right? So now from here, we are going to move totally, we'll take you straight to the US. And the question which is, I think, the most entertaining of the evening, what were the biggest problems you had adjusting to the culture and especially the food? Because every Indian student I talk to who is anywhere abroad, it is Indian food. It's like they expect to get that dal roti sabji over there, So what was your experience like?
So, in the US, most people would imagine that anyone who goes from here to the US is either in California or in New York or in Austin or Seattle or so on. But I'm in Tucson. I'm in Arizona. Okay, so Arizona, to give a perspective, think of Rajasthan.
Right.
And then Tucson, think of a town that you've not heard of.
Uh-huh.
That is small. That is how small that town is, and it is a desert.
Okay.
Right? And why is that a good place? Because it has a lot of mountains.
Uh-huh.
And then each mountain has an observatory, a telescope, because
wow.
astronomy is around 100 years old there. And it's called an astronomical city of the
Okay.
US, or of the world for that matter. So it's a wonderful place to do research in astronomy. But it's still Rajasthan. It's still a small town in Rajasthan, right? But it has signals. Like, that's kind of how I think about it. Now, that place, of course, getting there when I was going from the airport to where I live, I was just shocked because for the most part, it was just all dark and all highways. And suddenly, the car took a right turn and I'm at my place. I'm like,
Destination.
is my place in the middle of a highway? Like, is that where I live now? So I think that was the biggest shock. The first shock I had, like, how does this place work? Because I'm from Mumbai. This is not how place should look like. There should be a vada pav stall right next to there somewhere.
Hustle and bustle.
Yeah, there should be stalls, there should be shops, there should be so many things, but there's nothing around here. There's just roads, right? And I remember one of the nights I was just walking along the footpath, which they call something else, but I was walking around along the footpath, and most people in the cars would just look at me and then drive, because they were surprised, like, why is a person walking here?
Okay.
Because pretty much no one walks there, and definitely not at nights. But I have my habit of walking after dinner, so that was very weird, because now I was an alien, whereas the cars were normal. And in Mumbai, a car is
It's the
very
other way
abnormal,
around.
and then you walking is fine. So that was I think another shock. The food, I mean, the first time I went to a restaurant with a colleague there, I think I paid something like $20 for a pasta.
Oh, wow.
And of course, this is my first time in the US. I'm converting every dollar to rupees.
Absolutely.
And that comes down to around 1600 rupees for a pasta. I was shocked. I felt like I could have given a party to my friends in India. Like, I just spent $20 for this pasta that I could just cook at home.
Yeah.
And suddenly my mom came to my mind, because she would always say that I can just cook it at home.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, I see it. I see it now. So I think that was another shock. And entering the car, I was telling you earlier, the first time I was entering a car, I entered from the wrong side. Because I entered the driver's seat. I'm like, oh, sorry, this is because the cars are on the opposite side. And I love cycling. So I bought a cycle there as soon as I could, because Tucson has this really nice thing called a bike path,
Okay.
which is around a 170-kilometer
Okay.
bike path where you can just bike and do nothing else.
Yeah.
So I bought a bike, and then now I have to bike on the right side. That is, I have to cycle on the right side.
The wrong side, according
The
to
wrong
India.
side, basically. And figuring that out, and then cycling on the bike path and everything was, very interesting, to say the least. And I think even the houses. So, for example, the apartments there cost more than a bungalow, which to a Mumbaiker just does not
Doesn't
make
make
sense again,
sense.
because our
Yeah.
dream is to live in a bungalow in
Yeah.
Mumbai, right? So yeah, these were, I think, some of the things that really
So,
shook me.
do you manage your own cooking, or are you dependent on?
I cook every evening. I cannot live without Indian food.
Okay, so from here I'm going to jump straight away. Another laurel that he has earned, as he said, he likes to be modest, but he is truly modest because he hasn't told us that he has received a felicitation from the government of Maharashtra for his research on COVID. So tell us something about that.
Yeah, that was again a very interesting period, because when the COVID hit, I was doing this astronomy research with Geo Douglas, as I said. I was also doing, now I have to do mechanical engineering. I have to finish that as well. So there is a project requirement in engineering. So I was working on research papers on that as well. But at the same time, during COVID, there was this feeling of being helpless in this situation. And I felt like, what's the point of my education if I cannot, do anything during this period when the country is going through so much, or the world is going through so much at that point. So I thought about what I have, what I can contribute, what is my strength that I can, because everyone was helping. There were so many people who were helping in their own ways. So what is my strength? How can I do that? And I think it was intellectually. Eventually I figured out that I have to, if I can help the government with my research or with my statistics, I think that would be amazing. And what I tried to do was, at that point, we wrote 2 research papers on this with my engineering professors. What we did was, we were trying to predict the number of cases you will have in the next 14 days based on what you've already had.
Okay.
Now, there were researchers who had done this for the country itself, like the whole country level statistics, and for states, but no one did this on a district level. And I think it was important to do it on a district level, because the rules were being made on the district level. They were not being made on a national level at that point. So you have to control it district by district.
True.
So we took these districts, and we took the models, we took the training models, and we tried to see if we can predict the cases for the next 14 days. So we did that, and turns out we could do that. We could predict the cases with around, I think, more than 95%
Wow.
accuracy. And the use of this was, you predict what the number of cases will be after 14 days. You take a decision today that you want to take, be it even odd shops being open or some other decision that you want to take, and you see that after 14 days, are the number of cases less than what was predicted or more than what was predicted? Because if you did nothing, that is what was going to happen.
Absolutely.
So if it was less, you would at least know that your decision was right, because there was no way to know if your
Absolutely.
decision is right, because the cases are going to increase anyway. Is this rate of increase, is that slowed down or not? So that was the idea. We published research papers on that. I think it was a UK-based journal. Published our research papers. It got cited quite a lot. It got, I think people read it quite a bit, and I also tried to share it with my district office and everything.
Okay.
So that was the effort. That was my idea of trying to do something during COVID. I'm not sure how helpful it was, but I tried
No,
my
it's great because
end.
unless you don't break down the problem, you do not know going to whether that step that you have taken was successful or not. Even if the result is negative, you know that your effort was wrong and let's rethink it. Go back to the
Exactly.
drawing board. So I think whatever was done during COVID was a superb example, and congratulations for the felicitation.
Thank you.
So I'm going to now ask you the question which I can hear in the back of my brain about 100 million young kids who want to be astronomers, right? We are teaching our young kids to be innovators, to be creators, to be problem solvers. But when a child says, I want to be an astronomer, just the way you said that my professors didn't know how to guide me in the earlier stages, what is the thing, what is the advice that you would give them? One, to reach the goal, and two, of what is the educational levels that they need to cross to get there? So what is your advice for them?
Right. So one thing I personally believe is that each and every human being at some point had all the questions I had questions like, how did we come into existence? How did the universe come into place? What is the universe formed of? And all of these questions, like every kid has that, right? Astronomers are the people who took this question seriously, is what I think. Every person is curious and every person wants to be an astronomer, I think. What is important from the support system side of things is to not give an answer that would make them feel that, okay, we know everything. We do not know everything.
True.
We do not know how things came into existence exactly, right? It's still an ongoing research. In the end, we'll find something, we may not find something, but we have to get to the end to know that.
Right.
We cannot say that right now. So one is, I think, from the support system side of things, if some kid at their earlier stages is curious about this, maybe you can try to read about it and tell them what is the latest thing happening, or maybe watch videos. There's so many
True,
YouTube videos
true.
now.
Today
Neil
everybody
deGrasse
is on
Tyson
the
is.
platform.
First, I think is that to not kill that curiosity, to let that curiosity be, because it is an open question. Let it be open. Don't give an answer that may or may not be true, right? So if they have that curiosity, eventually, even later on, so I think the best way is you do your schooling, learn everything, study well. You go through your high school, and then I think the best way still is to enter physics, study physics, do a bachelor's in physics. Till now in India, we do not have, as far as I know, we do not have a bachelor's program in astronomy. I think it is 10 years down the line, that might be a reality, but today that is not a thing. So you still have to do a bachelor's in physics, study broad physics, and it's okay to understand all the physics to do something. And then you can again do masters in physics if you like, or there are a few masters in astronomy programs now coming up. So that is an option. You can go either for physics or astronomy, and then you have to do a PhD in astronomy. Now that is one route if you want to be a researcher, if you want to be a scientist, and if you want to do this research. But astronomy is so beautiful that it offers you different things to do as well, because you have what we call as amateur astronomers. Now amateur astronomers are the ones who know 100% how to operate a telescope. And what they do, their best job is to show people, to set their telescopes on the moon and show how moon looks like in a telescope. And once you do, the world changes for you. It just
Magical.
changes for you, because once you've looked at the moon with a telescope, it's a different moon for you, after that. And that is just the moon. That is something we can see. There's so much we can show you with a telescope that you can't even see in the night sky. And it's so colorful and so beautiful. So you can also do that. There are many amateur astronomers who play a major role in keeping the interest in the community alive. So I think that is another option. And there is always a third option that you can, You can make YouTube videos. You can do outreach. That by itself is a profession now, because people like me, if I'm doing research, I want someone to take my research from me to the people.
Right.
Because my research is being funded by the people. So my results have to go to the people, basically. And we as human, have to grow with this research. Our knowledge has to grow with this research. So their job then becomes critical with respect to taking our work to the community. So I think that is the third aspect of astronomy, and I think then you have to build telescopes. Someone had to build telescopes, and those are engineers. Those are not astronomers. We cannot build telescopes, right? So we need engineers. We need mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, computer scientists. Now we have so much data that we need data scientists. So I think there's a lot of ways you can be an astronomer or do astronomy by not being an astronomer as well. But I think these are the ways one can look into it.
I'm getting lost with your passion. You're so happy with what you're talking about, and I hope that passion rubs off on all the others who want to get where you are today. So I'm going to now tell you that the next thing which I read in your biodata was your research or your discovery on the formation of new planets. I cannot even begin to understand what that is. So please tell us about that.
I think the biggest questions that any one of us generally has is, one, how the universe came into existence. Second is, how did our planet form? Like, how did Earth form, and then why is Jupiter bigger, is gaseous, why is Venus smaller, why is there this diversity, why are we around the sun, and all of those. And then the third is, how did we come into existence on this planet, and are we alone in the universe? So I think these are three broad questions, how I categorize them. One is the job of a cosmologist. Third is the job of an astrobiologist. Second is my job, essentially. So understanding how planets form, how stars form, and for earlier we used to think that, okay, we need to study star formation, how stars form, and this was the research was being done, I think, from 1930s or even earlier than that, because you can see the stars. So whatever you can see, that's where research starts. So we had a very good grasp of how stars form, but we didn't know whether planets form with the stars or planets form after the star has formed, and so on and so forth. And of course, this became much clearer when bigger telescopes came to the picture. So the idea is, now what happens, we now know, because we've looked at so many systems that are forming right now. For example, what I look at, our system is 4.5 billion years old. The systems I'm looking at are 2 million years old. So these are very young systems which are forming planets right now. So the best way to learn how planets form is to see them form, right? So the way it happens is, you have a star at the center. It is still forming. It has a lot of dust around it. And then it has a disk, what we call a disk of gas and dust. That's all it has, gas and dust. I think Carl Sagan said this very famously, we are all made of star stuff. That is actually true, because the star itself is made of gas and dust. And there is a disk of gas and dust around it, from which planets form. And then eventually we formed on the planets. So what happens during this time is, some of the dust material, or they come together, they coalesce together, and then they form bigger and bigger chunks. And once they've formed, say a kilometer-size chunk, now they have more gravity than the dust otherwise.
Yeah.
So they attract stuff more. So when they go around in their orbit, they clear their orbit. So now their orbit is clear of all the gas and dust, because they have eaten up everything. So now you have a gas and dust disk around the star, but it has gaps, because planets are forming in these gaps.
Okay.
Now, this is where my research comes in, because now when you look out in the solar system, do you find any gas and dust between the planets? Not really. There is an asteroid belt between the Earth, between the Mars and the Jupiter. There's an asteroid belt. It has a lot of asteroids. But otherwise, there's no leftover gas and dust after the planets formed. So where did that go?
Okay.
The gas was 100 times more than the dust when these processes were happening. But today we see planets, we see asteroids, we see comets. Where is the gas? A lot of it is in the Jupiter, say, because it's a gas giant, as we say, Jupiter, Saturn. But there was still so much more. Where did all that go? So it turns out it all went in the universe. It all evaporated into the universe. But why did that happen and how did that happen and when did that happen? That is a very crucial question, because once you have removed all this gas, you cannot form planets like Jupiter, which are gas giants. Because if you don't have gas, there is no gas for the planets to have, right? So this determines when the planet formation ends, because we know, or we have some idea of when it starts, but we also need to know when it ends. So like by what age of the star the planets have formed. So now it turns out by around 5 million or to 10 million years of age of the star itself, the planets have already formed.
Okay.
And that is when this gas has already left the system, and all you have is dust and planets and star.
Wow.
And then eventually those things will come together, form asteroids and all of that stuff, and it will look like what our solar system now looks like.
I'm not a scientific person. Astronomy is, I think, on the end of my list, but you make it sound so interesting that I think now I'm going to go and start checking up for all the videos. Please keep sending me the links.
I think I
so
should
that
start
can
a
follow.
documentary of myself.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you make it sound so interesting, and the way you explain it for the layman, I think, is what matters, because it's only then will that kid understand
Exactly.
that, okay, this is what I think I like, isn't it? So that was really brilliant talking to you, Naman, but we now want to know a little more about you. Okay, so it's like a Jaldi 5. You know, you have the Jaldi 5 in Housey. So Jaldi 5, very quick questions, okay? So obviously, in my mind, I've got a very clear compartment of ghisapita questions and interesting questions. So the typical ones, you know, favorite this, favorite that. So let's ask, what's your favorite food? Not necessarily Indian cuisine, anything.
And I think it is Indian, because I think it is it's called aloo ki dahi wali sabzi. So you have this aloo sabzi, you have dahi in it. My mom makes it wonderfully. I'm
Okay.
trying to do good job with it, but yeah, that is my
Still
favorite.
getting there.
That is my favorite. Yeah, that is my all-time
Okay,
favorite.
so dahi walu, so
Dahi aloo. It's called dahi aloo. Yeah.
dahi aloo. So is it like the dahi is like a kadhi in it, or is it?
Yeah,
just-
yeah. It's like it's in the curry form.
Okay.
And then you have aloo in it.
Okay.
And it's kind
All
of
right, khata
it's a
khata.
very Rajasthani dish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mouth is watering. All right. Which is your favorite city? Not what you would like to visit, but favorite city to live in.
I love Mumbai. I have my own
Done,
reasons.
done. We are all diehard Mumbaikars. Done. Okay. Favorite movie, again, across the world.
Ah,
And you have to tell me one line why. Did you like the direction? Did you like the set? Did you like the storyline?
I think it is Gravity, probably. If you know.
No. Sorry. There is a Gizapita question and there is a Gizapita answer. Just because you're an astronomer, you can't say gravity.
See, the reason-
Okay, non-science fiction movies.
Okay, non-science fiction. I'd say Three Idiots.
Okay.
That's a
done.
lovely movie.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've got, which is your favorite sport and sports person, not necessarily from the same stream.
My favorite sport is definitely football. Just love playing it. Favorite sports person, I think Virat Kohli, probably, because I love cricket as well. I'm a Virat Kohli
Acceptable.
fan.
Acceptable. Done. Okay. And now for the clincher, okay, the last one. Talking to you for, I think, last half an hour, 40 minutes, I really don't know where time has flown. I can envision in the future, just the way we have all the biopics being made today, there's going to be a biopic on Naman Bajaj. Okay? So if a biopic is made on you, who would you like to play you?
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. It's a very far-fetched question.
See, I knew I could make him speechless.
Who's this? I'd say Vicky Kaushal.
Okay.
I love his acting. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Sam
Yeah.
Bahadur is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, and I think the variety of characters that he has done from
Yeah.
Masan was my favorite movie. So
Okay.
it's just Vicky Kaushal. probably,
Wonderful,
maybe.
wonderful.
I don't know.
So it was so brilliant talking to you, Naman. And I can only wish you all the best for your future, for your endeavors. And there is no doubt that you will continue getting laurels for your parents, your alma mater, your country. I'm just waiting to see what you're going to do in the next 5 years.
Thank you so
And
much.
with the grace of God, we'll be back here and I'll be congratulating you on the next achievement.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful being here and talking to you. It's just,
Complete pleasure.
and the last question was a surprise. It was a real surprise.
We have to keep something, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It is a vision of our beloved chairman, sir, Dr. A.F. Pinto, to provide holistic education for all our students. We are truly blessed to have such progressive mentors who ensure that our students are future ready, are 21st century global citizens. And I couldn't think of a better example that so completely embodies that vision. From St. Francis Bhayandar to NASA, what an inspiration. This is Shubhani Sharma signing off with these words, Ryanites Dream On.